Quo Vagis was great despite being anarcho-capitalist.
Welcome to Lollipops, I'm Malibu. We don't actually have any girls working today, so I'll let you slide on the cover charge. If you want to help, talk to Mr. Slater. He's the owner, he's usually in the basement.
Quo Vagis is an amazingly detailed mod that adds to Fallout 3 something that it desperately lacked: sex. Having the ability to distribute a magazine with sexual content with the main characters of the game does a lot to combat the inherent puritanical narrative of the game. The quests are so remarkably detailed that they change the shape of an entire playthrough from beginning to end, making the game into a properly mature experience. I never thought I'd see Moira like this. Remember this for the rest of my life.
Are you sure you've never done this before?
I don't think she has. However, it has many pitfalls. The most obvious issue with Quo Vagis is its sexual focus upon women. The mod straight up refuses to see the majority of men in the sexual way it sees women, so the mod only goes halfway towards fixing the puritanical perspective of sex. However, deeper beneath that problem is, as usual, the author's biases determined by their politics, which we could describe as wholesale anarcho-capitalism. The mod talks about pre-war politics of the United States and the porn industry, constantly framing the puritanical government as an enemy and the ultra-capitalist ultra-wealthy as martyrs fighting the system, most identifiably represented by the CEO of Lollipops, Larry Slater.
I ask about the antitrust suit, the first court battle Lollipops has lost in decades. He turns serious. Talented, hard-working people put us on top. If the court wants to subsidize niche players, we're up to the challenge. But the great part is, the same court that tried to shut us down in '62 basically just ordered America to make more porn.
The entire questline is dictated by Slater, and is, as such, from his point of view. He forefronts the idea that unregulated capitalism is the single only solution to prudish puritanism, requiring the player to have to choose between capitalism and puritanism, to play or not to play. All the while, the mod reinforces that capitalism is simply the default state. This is particularly exemplified by the main plot twist, where the CEO donates all of his profits towards a cure for a disease. This is framed as a good thing, and not him siphoning the wages of his employees to donate to this charity, regardless of what they need, bolstering his own public image. I do feel better about being included in a business that is putting all its profits towards finding a medical cure. And I want to do the same. Just send everything to the lab, every cap.
I am speechless. Well, nearly so. The victims of DeLeon syndrome will not soon forget your generosity.
You are not allowed to even question how much the CEO pays his workers. You can't question how much becomes profit beyond subtracting donations. And you can't question why the place is in a more egalitarian workplace. The concept of a co-op simply never comes up, and the workers are framed as being saved from the horrors of the wasteland. They express gratitude for all that he has done for them, even though he has to be taking money from them by virtue of his position. The mod gives the most glamorous depiction of a CEO possible, one who does everything for the greater good, so long as he alone is the sole arbiter of what that good is. I'm surprised you approve, considering the situation there.
Oppression justified by populist rhetoric is how all governments work. Socialist, fascist, or democratic. I still had public servants in the magazine. We even had a congresswoman once, and believe it or not, she got re-elected. She represented an unusually open-minded district.
Unsurprisingly, the mod delves into questioning age of consent and even pedophilia, as often happens with ANCAP ideologies. The author invented a contrived disease that makes adults look like children for what we would call a psychological extended jump scare of pedophilia that only works within the logic of the lore and has absolutely no basis in reality, making the false comparison that such a condition is anything like adults that simply happen to look childlike or even have dwarfism. One of us actually does have a form of dwarfism, so this notion is deeply offensive. People with dwarfism are not mistaken for children by anyone but passing strangers who looked for only half a second. So you admit that it's all an act and this one is the real one.
You actually fell for that. It's just a ruse for customers with a conscience. The real suckers even pay extra to search for a cure.
I knew it was fake. Larry is going to die. The mod does not go as far as to actually endorse pedophilia, nor does it actually fully depict it. It instead simulates it. Fortunately, the player can reject it, though you are strongly encouraged to go along with it under the assumption that an adult consenting is an adult consenting, regardless of context or capitalization upon such imagery, important factors that the mod does not recognize. You're not supposed to question why these women doing sex work might encourage pedophilia by proxy. They look like young teenagers, and clients have no reason to believe the disease is real.
Yeah. My parents were mercs. They let me study medicine because every unit needs a medic, right? We never heard of DeLeon syndrome. They just thought I was a late bloomer until I was, 30. Don't get me wrong, Larry's a great guy, but when your only tool's a hammer, every problem looks like a nail.
As is the case with many anarcho-capitalist critiques, we welcome the criticism of state oppression, but very much understand that their criticisms come from a very alien view of reality and political ideology that results from the lack of ability to imagine a world beyond capitalism. One part of the related mod, Mea Kulpa, goes as far as saying that Karl Marx's works instilled communism via unwavering acknowledgement of leaders thinking on your behalf. A take that only one who has never read Marx could have. Would a former federal agent have a problem living beside someone so renowned for such scandalous material?
I'm retired. If you're that worried about it, call President Eden.
Funny. Keep those harsh criticisms in mind when we say that we really like this mod. Despite the capitalist framing and grosser plot points, we deeply appreciate the absolute breadth of content added to all women throughout the game and DLCs, pro-sexual practices, additional dialogue options, and world building. Fallout 3 already supposed an unrealistic post-apocalyptic stance on capitalist realism, that the world would end before capitalism did, and so it's not surprising a mod with this ideology would gel with that flawed presupposition. With that in mind, the pro-capitalist and pedo-adjacent points are easy to dismiss as the personal biases of its central character in a game that is already uncomfortably favorable to him. We don't wish to diminish its notable drawbacks, but we must admit the rest of the mod is pretty sexy. And he'll need to be nude. It's a porn magazine.
So that's how it is? So much for chivalry.
I spoke with Elder Lyons about it, he agreed, and assigned you.
Always count on my father to send the best. You just better hope it doesn't come back to bite you.
And so we give Quo Vagis a 9 out of 10. Strongly recommend playing.